How's it going, everybody? It's Riley's Redzone here, back with another NFL predictions video. And this is a big one. It is officially NFL playoffs time, and it is time for me to give my predictions on what I think will happen over the next few weeks. So, traditionally, I make, 1 week videos each week to predict the games that week. But for the playoffs, I'm going to do the same as I have historically. I'm going to make one video. These are my entire predictions over what will take place over almost a month here. So this video is going to cover what will happen over the entire next month. Now, I do briefly want to recap the overall standings from this regular season. So my record this year was 153 and 101, and these were the guest picker standings. Nick coming in with the best record of the guest pickers this year. I'm hoping next year we will expand it again, but I feel that this year we were able to level up compared to last year, and the hope is that we'll just continue to do that in the upcoming years. So we're looking at the playoffs, and this is what the current bracket looks like. I have this creation here that is the bracket, and these spots will be getting filled in as we go through the video. So I'm going to take it on a matchup by matchup basis, predicting who I think would win. And of course, how this works is when I make one choice, if it is wrong, it is going to affect a lot of other ones, but I'm going to try to perfectly, obviously it's difficult to do that. It probably won't happen, but I'm going to pick who I think will win all the way to the end. So afterwards, if you do want to see how it was, maybe there's something that throws it off a bit, but my hope is that I can at least maybe get like some of the final teams for sure correct. So with that being said, we're going to jump right into the games, which the first one on Saturday that is happening this weekend is going to be the Niners and the Seahawks. And so looking at that matchup, it's a 7 versus a 2 seed here. 1 seeds are the only seed with a bye. So in the NFC, in this case, it is the Eagles. So a lot of division matchups happening this weekend. We have this one. We have the Bills-Dolphins. We have the Ravens-Bengals. And so there's a lot of kind of repeat action happening. But for me in this one, I think I'm going to go with the Niners because they have a ton of momentum going right now. They've won, I think it's 10 now in a row. They do have a rookie quarterback, which we'll talk about later, could potentially affect things, but the way they're playing right now, and I mean, the Seahawks, I'd say, would definitely, especially given the expectations going into the year, I think they've had a solid year this year overall. I think Seahawks fans would be happy about it because they get to not only make the playoffs, but also have a very high draft pick. But I think in this situation, the Niners have a better roster. I think that they're going to have a good pass rush, and specifically as well, passing the ball, they do, I think, have an advantage. I mean, the Seahawks have Tariq Woolen, but besides that, maybe not as strong at corner. And I think they're actually more so going to be able to run the ball against the Seahawks defense with Christian McCaffrey. And of course, as we've mentioned, there is the rookie QB element, and I think when you have a quarterback like that, you just kind of have to play to their strengths. So I would imagine they're going to hand the ball off a lot, which to me would make sense given their offense here. So I think this could have the potential to actually be a close one, but for the sake of who will win, I'm going to go with the 49ers, and that of course knocks the Seahawks out. So they move on to the second round. And now we're going to talk about the next game, which is the Chargers and the Jaguars. That is also happening on Saturday. Now, I am kind of upset that this ended up being the matchup because I think these are two teams that I've felt the same about, just at different times. As they're gaining momentum going into the playoffs, I thought they'd take a step up. It's kind of weird because I'd say the Jaguars over the last maybe month have been one of the teams that I think I've picked them pretty consistently over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and I really think that they could be dangerous. If they were playing the Ravens or the Dolphins, I think that the Jags would absolutely blow them out of the water, in my opinion. I think that they could score a lot of points. But This Chargers team, maybe this is a little bit, I thought they were going to take a step up in the preseason. Didn't quite get that level, but they do, of course, get in. It's hard because I do think Herbert is a spectacular talent. I know Mike Williams is going to be out, but Josh Palmer is a fine startable player for for this week. Hopefully Mike Williams can get back. But what I actually think is going to be the difference here is going to be the pass rush of Los Angeles. I think Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa combined is going to be the difference maker, as well as I think the secondary for Los Angeles will be a step up over Jacksonville's receivers, which I do like, and I love the way Doug Peterson's been calling plays. They've been making things happen offensively. Trevor's taking a step up. They're making everything work, especially I love how they're involving Evan Ingram. But I just think a tale of two teams that I really like a lot in this playoffs. It's hard to only pick one. It is also a home game, but I kind of, in this situation, it's same with the Seahawks. Like, the Jaguars got to be happy with the season they had. I think that next year they will be a serious, serious threat. But for this year, I think I have to go with the Chargers. Just because I think overall that roster is a little bit more experienced. They've been here a little bit more. Obviously, Herbert hasn't really had that experience. But I'm going to go with the Chargers. Technically a seeding upset, but I believe that they are still the favorite betting-wise. But either way, I guess it's technically an upset with the seeds. But that will knock Jaguars out. And now we're going to take a look at the next one, which starts today on Sunday. Bills-Dolphins. Plain and simple, this is, I've said this a few times too, like, I believe, picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl in, I think at this point, it's been the last 4 playoff prediction videos. And I know, and I mentioned this to somebody today, and they were like, well, they just keep getting bad luck. And it's like, yeah, do I keep doing this? Well, it's a mix between, it's conflicting because I talk about it all the time with the picks. If you like pick a team that you think will get an upset, if you pick them over and over, you're going to end up losing yourself more games until they get that pick. But this is different. This is the entire Super Bowl. And I'm not going to miss out on that chance of being right that they do potentially go far in the playoffs. And so in this case, like, I have confidence right now that the Bills have the potential this year to do it again. So I don't think that I can rule them out there. And I think this is a different matchup too. Specifically in the first round, let's just talk first round. Is Skylar Thompson starting a quarterback for a 7th round pick? I guess he's performed all right, but not necessarily a guy you want starting consistently in the playoffs right now as a rookie. So for now, I think to me this might be perhaps either the easiest or second easiest in my opinion, but you never know. An upset could happen, but I got to go with the Bills. I think they'll be having a lot of motivation to play for DeMar Hamlin and everything going on, and I think that they are going to have an extra push this postseason. So I'm going to go with them there with the Dolphins. Really, I just think their receiving weapons are going to be an advantage over the Miami corners is probably my biggest reason. So I think they'll get it done. And then the next game after that, this is perhaps one of the most difficult ones in my opinion to project. This is really one of those things where I'll mention it later and this kind of conflicts. I think it's hard to beat a team twice. I do believe in that. I do think it is very difficult to do so. But when it comes down to it, I need to look at that individual matchup basis. And when I look at this, I can definitely see somebody picking the Giants 100%. This is one of the most difficult games to predict to me and project what's going to happen. But here's what my key matchup of the game is going to be. I think Jefferson is going to go off on Sunday. I think that if we take a look at both the Vikings receivers versus the Giants secondary and vice versa, the Giants receivers, I specifically want to talk defense because I don't think a ton of people would doubt that Jefferson can have a great game. I'll tell you where I think the Vikings will step up this week. I think that they can cover the Giants receivers. Duke Shelley has been an extremely successful corner over the last few weeks. They finally gave him a chance to start, and he has been balling out. The Giants' top options are Richie James. Was the first game, I'd say, who they threw it to the most. I think they can cover that. I know they have other options as well, but like I think as well, you look at both the receivers and corners, I think the other difference maker is the Giants are lacking a star tight end. I know they have Bellinger, the rookie. They spent like a 4th-round pick on. Yeah, he could develop someday, but right now, if they need to cover, they can just stick a linebacker on him, and I don't think that's much of a threat, and that kind of allows you to defend the run more so you can stop Saquon. You know, when you have Eric Kendricks and Jordan Hicks, you can just throw one of them on Bellinger, and I would hope you'd be able to take care of it. So it's really just going to be, can the corners step up, and I think they will this week. So this game was down to the wire in the first game, and like I said, it's difficult to get 2 wins against a team, but I think the Vikings can get a win against New York. At home makes a difference as well. I expect another close game, but I think they have a few key matchup advantages that kind of override my doubts of winning against a team twice. Now, what I will say about this next one is, boy, the Ravens QB situation is hurting right now. The rumors today, Lamar is 100% out. So that's unfortunate. The odds of Tyler Huntley playing are up in the air right now. That's also a little concerning. Anthony Brown actually has been all right for an undrafted rookie. We might have 3 rookies this week that weren't even picked until the 7th round or undrafted starting this week. There's a chance that happens, which would just be crazy. So for that reason, I have to go safe here. The Ravens have been one of those teams I think have just been losing momentum since Lamar went out. I don't know what's going to happen with him this offseason, but I am slightly concerned there. So without a QB, I think I got to go with the Bengals here. Potential for upset, but I just think I have to go with the safe choice here. I have to make the play that overall might make the most sense for me, and that's to go with the Bengals. It's a safer choice in this situation. But that leads to the next game, which could be a very close one. There's another thing conflicting here, but the Cowboys playing worse as of late. They've been slowing down. Dak has not been playing his best. But so have the Bucks. They have been. I know they last week didn't really matter against the Falcons, but like they have been pretty slow. And now I will say this: they did get it going against Carolina a few weeks ago. That was pretty impressive. And having a home playoff game, it's so weird because I never want to doubt Tom Brady, but I'm gonna try it this year, going with a few individual matchup basis over kind of. I'm trying to limit like the feeling. Historically, when I do these playoff picks, I'd say obviously some of the best picks I've made have been because of the feeling, but like just a feeling that a team will win. But I think that it can also cost me here. So on an individual matchup basis, I think that the edge rush, I think Micah Parsons is going to have a big game. Cowboys corners are relatively okay. I think this is going to be really even, but I'm going to go with the Cowboys here in, an upset over the home team there. So I have both 5 seeds getting a win, but I just think that the Cowboys have a better roster overall. It is going to come down to Dak's QB play because I think Tom will not have a bad game at all. It's just whether the rest of the team can kind of defend against the Cowboys, which I think could actually be a struggle for him. So I'm going to go with the Cowboys there, but that is a nail biter. Could go either way. So now I'm going to go all both division games on one side and both division games on the other side. I just went in order of schedule that we knew thus far. But that makes the next game a division game. Chargers, Chiefs, and I'm going to keep this one pretty simple. I love the Chargers as a potential sleeper team, but I really think whether it's the Chargers or the Jaguars, either one that wins the wild card, I like them both as options. I don't think they can take down the Chiefs. I think just plain and simple, the Chiefs are still, perhaps on paper, one of the best football teams available right now in this bracket. So I think you got to go with them here. Patrick Mahomes might win another MVP. Just performing really, really well, and they're taking care of it offensively. If they can just make sure they perform well enough defensively, I think they will be not having issues, at least until they get to the AFC Championship in this bracket. So after that, we're going to go to the Bengals-Bills, which unfortunately, was the game that was not able to be continued. And once again, I'm going to mention it again as last week, we're thankful that Damar Hamlin is progressing. And now, since that video, he's progressed even further, which is beautiful. We love that is occurring. But in this game that is being played between these two teams in this situation, I got to go with the Bills. I think that the Bengals have a ton of momentum. It's how they got there last year. They are playing well as of late, and that's always what you want to be doing. But I think that the Bills just have extra motivation. I think that they have enough offensively. I expect this to be a very high-scoring game between two high-powered offenses. But in the end, I'm going to go with Buffalo. I think that I have confidence in them as a team to succeed in this playoffs and make a run at it against whoever is up in their way, certainly up to this point until they have to play the Chiefs. But now jumping over to the divisional side, we have another division game in the divisional, one on each in this situation. We have the Cowboys versus the Eagles. And I at one point did have the Cowboys actually getting this upset. But I think that I got to go with the Eagles here. Just overall a better roster. And I do think I can actually, as weird as this sounds, I know Jalen's been hurt. The Cowboys beat this team with Gardner Minshew is when they beat them. I think the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, get this win. I actually, believe it or not, I know that Jalen has limited playoff experience. I think I actually like Jalen's consistency more than Dak's right now. This year, I think he's just been a better player. And so I do think Dallas does have the potential to make a serious run at this thing. But for right now, I got to go with the Eagles, go with the safe pick here. They have home field advantage and an overall solid QB play. I think that they're going to have a case. But this is where things maybe get off the rails. So you hold on with me. Fasten your seatbelts. This is where it gets hard. It reminds me of, it was last year and 2 years ago. I think I have a bad feeling about the Eagles in the long run. And so I'm going to say this ahead of time. Whoever wins this game, if this matchup happens, I think can go in and upset Philadelphia. I think either of these two teams. When I'm picking playoffs, I like to pick what a team's ceiling is. At that team's best, could they beat their opponent? And based on that, I, for some reason, like the momentum these two teams have been going. As much as I just praised Jalen a minute ago, he was hurt for a while. I think Philadelphia's going to need a little bit to get in the swing of things. These two teams, I'll talk about the Vikings here. You might be saying, whoa, what just happened in Green Bay 2 weeks ago? I'll get there. But let's talk about the Niners. The Niners have been on fire 10 games in a row. The second they made that McCaffrey trade, we went, okay, here comes a team. They're going for this thing. And then Garoppolo goes down. But in comes Brock Purdy, and it's proving case in point that you can throw in. And Brock Purdy, is not a just random quarterback. I mean, obviously he was picked last pick in the draft, but it's not like I would have ranked him probably ahead of, like a Skylar Thompson that might be starting here and, some other options. But for the last pick in the draft, I think Purdy kind of is proving here that let's call him for now. He's developing into something, but he's running the system well. They can make a run here. They just need everything to go right. They have had the momentum, and I picked them to make it to the Super Bowl in the preseason, which right now looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that if I look back. But here's the deal. I don't know. What I'm still trying to find out is I think you can make a case that this team has been performing better with Brock Purdy at quarterback. I think he will be a capable quarterback for years to come. They're going to have a really interesting situation to choose between him and Lance. But can we trust a rookie in the playoffs is the question. Because if you put and I love Brock Purdy as a player, but it doesn't matter what rookie. I don't know if I'd be taking a rookie to go all the way. I don't think we've really seen that much. We've seen, Ben Roethlisberger early in his career, but it reminds me of this situation where you don't necessarily have him throwing the ball a ton, not having a ton of statistical production. You just need to run the offense and get this thing done. But they've been winning a ton of games. But can we trust his rookie quarterback? That's kind of the Niners side. Then we go to the Vikings, and you might be saying, okay, you just talk about momentum. This team got the door knocked down against Green Bay. Now, this may be a bold take, freezing cold take maybe. I know that it looked bad because they had their starters out there. And that never feels good to lose by that much in a football game. But I actually don't think that Packers game mattered as much as a lot of people think it did. They really, in my opinion, did exactly what they wanted to do. I would have, on purpose, I picked the Packers in that game for a reason. Because I didn't think the Vikings had anything to play for. The Packers were trying to make the playoffs. And if I were the Vikings at the time, and it obviously ended up being the Seahawks, and I would probably rather play the Seahawks than the Giants. But at the time of that game, it seemed as though the way the momentum was flowing, that it would be an NFC North opponent in the playoffs. It was looking like the Lions or the Packers were going to be your two top options as the 7th seed. So, in that situation, those two teams were gaining a ton of momentum, almost as much as the Niners team here. I would not want to play either of those teams, especially the Detroit team that you lost to already, and the Packers team that if you go all in and lose this week, then you're going to have to do it again. Obviously, you already beat them once, too. But then that also goes back to the hard to beat a team twice thing. I personally don't think there is as much weight in that game as people are putting on it. And I know I've seen a few videos this week that have been really good about explaining what the Vikings have been doing. And as somebody who has watched the Vikings for years locally, it feels weird that there are some things going on with that team that are not usual. Like how well they are doing in the fourth quarter. How there's a lot of luck involved. But I look at their matchups. I think San Francisco is struggling at corner. And I think that they have great linebackers, so they're going to take away Hawkinson. But I think that with Jefferson, Osborne's been a great player. I think that they could make it work. So, as crazy as this is, it's going against my preseason pick as well. It's hard because I like Brock Purdy as an option actually for this team as well. Like there's a chance he starts for this team next year, and I'm all for Brock Purdy. But as risky as this seems, I feel like it would actually be riskier to pick a rookie quarterback to go all the way. So for that purpose, I'm going with the Minnesota Vikings over the Niners. I have to give the highlight on that because I have to emphasize, I think those two teams might be the highest ceiling teams on the NFC. I personally think, as good as the Eagles have been this year, their game has been consistency, which is important in the playoffs. But I like to take some risks a little bit here. I think it's going to be valuable to have a team that can be at their best. And at their best, I think a Niners or a Vikings team has the potential to do that. We're going to talk about that very shortly. As now we're going to flip back to the AFC. Two of the best teams. I would say this. I think as well. This is layering some teams. Like if I were doing power rankings for this playoffs, I think there are 3 teams in the AFC that are better than all of the teams in the NFC on a more consistent basis. But I think the Niners at their peak actually could sneak in there as maybe the 3rd. But these 2 teams might be the 2 best teams in football. And because of the way things are, they would have to play in this game. And you know what? I'm doing it. Like, I am doing it again. This could bite me again. I mean, it's obviously bit me 3 times in a row now. At least 2. But I think this is, if I'm going to say this, and I maybe said these exact words before. This is the year for the Bills. If they don't get it this year, they're always going to be in the window with Josh Allen. But like over the last 3 years, this feels like their best chance. I think that Josh Allen is performing at his best at a very high level. Believe it or not, the neutral site in this game actually could make an effect because Arrowhead in the playoffs, dangerous place to play. Nobody wants to play there. Chiefs are dangerous. But I believe in this situation, this would be played at Mercedes-Benz. And Josh Allen, with no wind against him or anything, he can sling that thing all the way down the field. Kansas City doesn't have the best corners. I'm going to go with the Bills. I think that Chiefs are an incredible team, but if there's ever a year for the Bills team, I think this might be the year. Playing with the motivation for number 3 out there, I don't think there is going to be another team in the NFL as motivated to win a Super Bowl as the Buffalo Bills will be. But they obviously have to get an opponent. And so, goes back to the question. Consistency and safe, upside. And you might also be saying, Eagles already knocked the socks out of this Vikings team in week 2. Might have been week 3. Early on in the season. That is 100% true. But I think this Vikings team has actually taken a huge step up since that game. And as long as this game isn't played on Monday Night Football, which it still could be, but I think I'm going to go with the theory here of a team at its peak. I think that the Vikings at their highest potential. This feels crazy to say, but I actually think so. I think they might be the best team in the NFC at their highest potential. As well as Jalen Hurts has been playing, and as bad at times Kirk can be, I think that Kirk Cousins offers more consistency in this playoffs than Jalen Hurts in this game. The Vikes would go into this game as an underdog. There are no expectations to win this game. And I think they could do it. I think that people are putting a lot of pressure on Kirk Cousins right now to perform well as disappointed. I actually think that I would be putting quite a lot of trust in him. Because you take a look at the landscape of the quarterbacks in the NFC side of the bracket. Only one more experienced than him in this situation. Tom Brady. And as well as Tom Brady ever has been, this year, for some reason, that Bucs team doesn't seem like it's quite it. So besides that, if there is a quarterback that has been there, at least gotten a playoff win, I know Dak has done it, but he's been throwing a lot more picks than Kirk has recently. I think that the Vikes, even, yes, in Philadelphia, I think they could do it. And so this may look terrible in a month's time. But you do not get on the board without taking some risk shots. And so that creates perhaps the dream Super Bowl matchup of fan bases looking to get a fan base who's been to 4 Super Bowls would be guaranteed to get their first one in this game. And I think that would be beautiful for the sport. And I'll tell you this, from either team, well, I'd say more so one. I'd say more so from the Vikings' perspective. There may be fans that would be disappointed if you lost the Super Bowl again, so you're 0-5. Yeah, that would make it the worst. But I'll tell you what, since both of these teams, since I've been alive, they have not made the Super Bowl. And so I think for either of these teams to get in the Super Bowl, specifically more the Vikings because it's been a longer time since they've made it. If I was a fan of either of those teams, I think you got to be content with that. To even make the Super Bowl shows, okay, we have this potential. We haven't done that. At least get a taste of the feeling of what that is. But I do think it comes down to it. I'm doing it again. I don't think that there is a team at their best, and I also don't think there is a team with more motivation than this Buffalo Bills team this season. I know that they are missing Von Miller, which could have been a game-changing closing pitcher type of edge rush in a Super Bowl like last year. But this Bills team can put points on the board. And I think that they have a great roster. And I'll tell you, there's a reason that they are still going to survive without Von Miller. And is that edge rush depth. I said it in the preseason. When they brought in everybody they did, and then you have a room with Von Miller, Greg Rousseau, Boogie Basham, Shaq Lawson, like 4 or 5 guys, AJ Epinesa. You've got like 5 guys at the beginning of the season even that would start on a lot of teams. You had 5 guys who could do that. You only have to put 2 guys on the field at once for edge rush. And so, to me, the winning teams, and it reminds me of Philadelphia from a few years ago, the winning teams can keep getting fresh legs out there, specifically on the defensive line. And so, I think the Bills have the best depth of pass rush. One of the best for sure in the league. Potentially the best. For sure in the playoffs, if not the whole league. So, I really just think there's extra motivation there. So, I think the Bills get their first ever Super Bowl. They get that win for DeMar, and I think that's how it's going to end up here. But this could go a number of ways. But I think the AFC is a lot more clear. There's a top 3 teams there, and I think it's going to come down to the Bills. I'm very confident. The NFC, not quite the same. I think there's a lot of shakiness there. I don't think there's one dominant team. I don't see one team kind of even pushing, because the one team I'd say I kind of feel a bit with is the Niners, but I don't know how far I can let a rookie QB go before something might eventually go wrong. It's almost like Purdy's played too perfect. And I like him a lot as a quarterback, but I think it's hard to doubt. It's hard to kind of have confidence fully in any rookie, let alone a 7th-round pick. So given the situation he's been in, he's played phenomenal. And even if he gets that far in the playoffs, you certainly have to think about, even right now, if he doesn't win a single playoff game, you have to consider him for starting next year as well. So those are my picks for this year. We'll see how it turns out, taking some risks on the board here, but I greatly appreciate you sticking around for this video. So with this video now, as I won't have the weekly ones, I'll be working on some other projects that hopefully it's going to be off season time by the next time you kind of see my next video. So I might be getting out some of the cooking videos to kind of finish that up as the NFL season wraps up, and then it'll be full draft, free agency type of content. So with that being said, thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.